California Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass. She's a member of the Budget Committee, and you know, Congresswoman, you're not that way. You're not demeaning. You don't take cheap shots at the other guys. People might disagree with you, but I just think that's out of order, and I think this Santa thing is just pushing it. What say you?
Well, you know, I think that we really are in a bad situation, and I was listening to your earlier guests, and you know, I certainly want to go home for Christmas, but I was more than willing to stay. The only problem is that we recessed last night, and so we were really kind of left all puzzled, going, well, okay, we didn't have the votes for that. Couldn't we stay around and continue to work? But if the leadership does gavel down and send us on recess, we're really kind of stuck.
Well, you know,
now,
the leadership, you might be right. I'm amazed that this is even happening. But Congressman, maybe from what I was covering the vote last night on this Plan B thing and how it fell apart, apparently the view was we're going nowhere fast. We've just got to chill. But to your point, there's not a lot of time to chill.
Absolutely. But you know what, though? The thing that was surprising to me is that when Speaker Boehner had his press conference and said he was going to put Plan B forward, I would have thought that he would have counted the votes before he said that. And then Majority Leader Cantor said early yesterday afternoon that we definitely have the votes to move forward. So frankly, I have a lot of empathy for Speaker Boehner. I think the way his caucus treated him last night was absolutely appalling to do that at the last minute like that.
Well, it's done, as you say here. Now it raises a question, though. If it's this difficult to get a tax hike through on millionaires, how the heck are they going to get one through, presumably on 400,000-aires? And more to the point, those who bolted, and bolted because it wasn't so much the tax thing, it was that they weren't seeing any spending cuts offered on your side. It's poisoned the well, hasn't it?
Oh, but let me just tell you how it gets done. Speaker Boehner has got to break with the rule that he has to have the majority of Republicans on the deal. How many Republicans can he bring to the table? That's what has to happen. His caucus should not hold him hostage like that. He needs to make a major address to the American people and say, you know what, it's so important that I get this deal done. I can only bring 80 Republicans to the table to vote.
That behooves your side then to come up with cuts, right, to make that job easier. And you haven't. You haven't.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? If he were to get past that rule, I guarantee you there would be enough Democrats that are willing to make cuts.
No, I don't know, Congresswoman. I had a couple of your colleagues here over the last couple of weeks, and I would beg them to come up with a spending cut. Now, I've had a group, a Congressional Black Caucus, that says no, leave entitlements alone. Another large group saying leave Social Security alone. I could probably understand that. It's not part of this.
Well,
wait a minute. Hear me out. So when I asked them to name one thing they would cut, they couldn't come up with it. So I'm not here to take sides. I am saying you can't blame Republicans who would entertain a hike in taxes, which goes against their DNA, when they're not getting anything in return for it.
Well, now, you asked me what I would cut, and I'll tell you.
What?
I think that there's plenty to cut in defense, but I also think that there's ways that we can have savings and make cuts in Medicare as well that don't change the guarantee, because I think that's kind of the bottom line.
So you would put Medicare on the table, you would dissect it, you'd look at it, and to your other colleagues who don't want to even address it, you say what?
Well, I actually believe that my colleagues are willing to address it. I think what they don't want to do... No, wait a minute. They don't support Paul Ryan's plan to turn Medicare into a voucher system.
Fine, that I understand. But they have not offered cuts. They have not offered savings.
No, I think that plenty of my colleagues have. Now, I'm not sure which ones you've interviewed, but in terms of the ones that I know that are willing to come to the table and make serious cuts, and in the 2 years that I've been here,
do you think there are enough of them, Congresswoman? Do you think there are enough of them?
I do.
Really?
I do think there are enough of them. If you put together Republican votes and Democratic votes, but as long as Speaker Boehner is held hostage to the notion that he won't put forward a bill
I got to tell you, if he's held hostage to the far right in his party, you might be right about that. Your party is equally calling the shots on the extreme left side, leaving out most spending and leaving out entitlements. So both sides are to blame.
I don't think so. I will tell you one thing. I don't believe that the Democrats would have ever done to Leader Pelosi what they did to Speaker Boehner last night. That was atrocious, the way they treated him. I do think that if he would break with that one rule...
Wait a minute, you don't remember Blue Dog Democrats who coughed up that health care plan, who didn't want any part of it?
Well, I do have to tell you, it was before my time. But what I do know, is that they never did Pelosi the way they did Boehner last night. I do think that was just
well, we
really
can quibble with that, but there's no
day.
quibbling that you're trying to move forward. You're trying to come up with ideas. I appreciate that just as an American.
Democrats are willing to vote for cuts.
Well, I think you should talk to your friends because you seem like a very nice lady, but I've not heard it. But maybe hope springs eternal, and after the season it'll be like a miracle on, I don't know, K Street. But Congresswoman?
I think we'll be back on the 27th.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a Merry
You're
Christmas.
welcome.